Today's lesson is line plots. Get your learning target down, displaying numerical data and plots on a number line, including line plots, histograms, and box plots. And then your I can statement. I can display data using a line plot and can use a line plot to calculate different measures of central tendencies. And many of you saw this lesson this week, so this should be an easy video. Here we go.
Oh, she pulled a Mr. McKenzie. All right, a line plot is a visual display showing all of our data on a number line. Sometimes it's called a dot plot, but in class we're going to use X's. Basically, you set up your number line. You want to make sure you include your lowest and your highest value. So if you look in our table there, you'll see we have some 1s, some 2s, 3s, all the way up to 7s. So we've already set up our number line to go from 1 to 7. Include every number between 1 and 7, even if it doesn't end up showing up as one of our data points. And then it's just a sorting activity. Go through your table and place an X every time you see a number. So we have a 6, so we put an X. Then we have a 5. Then we have a 1. Then we have a 7 and a really ugly X. There we go. What Mrs. King is trying to do is to make sure each of her X's are the same size. Because what's going to happen is the more... All right, I'm going to take over. A good thing you can do is you can cross them out as you go. But the idea is try to make each X the same size, no matter how pretty or ugly it might be. So I got 2 4s there. And you're just going to stack the X's on top of each other. So I'm going to go through and grab some of my 5s and kind of take care of it in groups. You can kind of sort through it however you would like. If you want to go find all the 4s, go for it. If you want to do it one at a time, that's fine. I'm just kind of sorting through it in parts, but marking them as I go. But the idea is that the taller the row is, the more those data values you had in your set of data. So I'm just kind of working through each one of these. So I got a couple of 6s. And then my couple of 7s. The reason for a line plot is now it's very easy just to glance at this line plot and see, hey, we had a whole bunch of 4s and 5s. We could easily say the mode for this set of data was a 5 because it's the tallest stack. But notice how I try to keep all the X's at the same heights so that one stack doesn't look taller even though it has fewer X's in it. So we want to be as consistent as we can. You'll notice we didn't have any 2s. That's okay. We still want to include it on our number line whether it got used or not. And then we'll be able to use this to answer a lot of questions going forward. Oh.
Example 2, phone calls. For the next month, the 5th graders kept a record of how many times they called one of their first cousins on the phone. You call your first cousins on the phone? All right, here we go.
I just text them, but maybe it's an old textbook.
The first thing we have to do is to make our line plot. So you have to find the minimum value, which is 0, and the maximum value, which is 6. Every number between 0 through 6 should be on that number line in order from least to greatest. Now that we have that done, we're going to go through our data and we're going to put an X on each number of the number line as it corresponds to the data in the, so we have 2 0s.
And you can sort through it however you want. If you want to do it one at a time, if you want to do all the 1s.
1, 2, 3, 4 1s.
But again, try to make those X's as consistent in height as you can. So 4 of them is really twice as tall as 2 of them is.
We got 6 2s.
I'm going to double check her work.
Oh, 7.
Good thing I double checked her work.
Shouldn't have bet on Mrs. King today. 1, 2, 3, 4,
5 and 6.
Didn't you have 7? 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Come on.
All right. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 5 3s. We have 1, 2, 4s. There was no 5s, and then 1 lonely 6 in our data.
And then they're going to ask you a question so that you can read and understand the graph. How many students made at least one phone call to a first cousin? The quicker you read, the quicker you miss that at least word. So it would be 1 phone call or more. So you need all the X's in the first value. And to the right, 2nd, 3rd, 4, and 6. Add them up.
So count all of those X's. It's 1 or more, at least 1.
19.
So Mrs. King got a total of 19, so now I'll double check her work. We have 4 and 7 is 11, plus 5 is 16, 17, 18, 19. She was finally right on one of them.
Yay!
We did forget one thing, and we'll talk more of this as we get into other types of graphs, but every time you make a graph, regardless of what it's about or what kind,
Title.
you always need a title.
Oh,
So this one is talking about the number of phone calls. So we would write our title, number of phone calls. Your graph isn't worth anything to you if we don't know what those numbers represent.
Capital letters, please. All right, here we go. Median, mode, range, and any other outliers shown in the line plot. In this case, our number of phone calls has a pretty small range, so we won't have any outliers. 6 is not high enough to be considered an outlier.
So our range is the highest, 6, minus the lowest, 0. It's not how tall they are, it's the values on our number line. So 6 minus 0 is 6.
The mode should be very easy to see in a visual way, so we have one mode, and that would be 2.
The median's a little bit trickier. You can take all your numbers and put them in order, but they're actually in order on your number line if you know how to use it. Kind of work from each end, kind of crossing one out from either side, going back and forth. Now there's a lot of them, so you kind of have to take your time, make sure you do it evenly.
Some kids may have to go back to the data table on the top and work backwards from there if they can't do it from a line plot. There we go.
We have our middle or our median of 2. So we just kind of worked our way backwards from either end of our number line to find our answer. So that's how we use a line plot. We'll do some more practice tomorrow in class with both creating them, but then calculating some of our measures of central tendency using that line plot.